Thank you for today's session. Our conservator, AR Chin Ling, Dr. Chin Ling, sorry, correct that. Also Vice President of ICOMOS, board member, and also an expert member of Heritage and Conservation. We are graciously inviting our not only our external assessor but also our speaker today as part of the Conservator team in Malaysia, and in which today's topic will be in the circle of heritage and conservation, and how this is beneficial for our students, and in what form is this going to grow, and how is it going to grow within our generation of students as well. So Dr. Tan, thank you very much for today's session. The first question is let's get the audience understanding of how you came up with your own passion in heritage and conservation. So maybe you can grace us with a little bit of thoughts on how did you come up into this conservation industry or spectrum of understanding.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miss Vanessa, for the invitations, and thank you, UW, KTU Penang. Then this is the topics that people keep discuss on, especially after the Georgetown and Malacca received the status that UNESCO Heritage Site. So, and how I started involved in this line, heritage conservation. First, after I graduated from university, from my degree, then I have opportunity to join the late Mr. Tanya Wei office, and from there I learned from for the heritage shop house conservations, and some of the mansions, bungalow, and some temples, Chinese architecture. Then besides that, I also learned a lot from my mentor, Professor Egafa. There's who brought me into this line, especially involved in the heritage conservations for the national heritage or heritage under the National Heritage Act. So from there, I learned, and from not only from the site but also about the elements, about the act, about regulations, rules and regulations. Then in 2014, so from there we will have Malaysia. We set up our ICOMOS Malaysia. Yeah, ICOMOS Malaysia. So is ICOMOS, as we know that ICOMOS is the advisory body for UNESCO in heritage conservation. So from there, I learned from different discipline experts from these different disciplines, like historians, archaeologists, architects, educationists, or some academics. Then from there, I learned a lot. Not only then, I can compare what we have in Malaysia and what others did in overseas. So from there, we learn and to enhance our system, our current guidelines we have in Malaysia, and also technique. And heritage conservation is not only buildings, but it's about the setting. Sometimes it's about the relationship between the people. It's like the intangible and tangible cultural heritage. So when talk about tangible heritage, not only architecture significance. Architecture significance we can describe in more details. It include the building material, include the building technology, and we need to understand. We need to understand the building material used in past and building technology. Then only we can practice. We can propose appropriate restoration method to a heritage building without causing more damage.
Yes, I think the most important thing is that damage part, right? We want to conserve the existing nature of the building without damaging the existing story, so that it lives to tell another day of story.
Yeah, so the diagnosis is very important, and you must understand the historical background of the site. We need to respect it, and how people use the space in the past. Then only we can carry out the proper conservation strategy. So that's very important.
So when you came into this, you came in as a history lover or as an architect lover, or how did it, besides having the immense experience with mentors and all that, how did it come in as?
Okay, there's both.
Both heritage and historic and architecture.
Yeah, history and architecture, because this is very important. And for example, myself, previously I stayed in heritage shop houses
Okay.
during my my
Young years.
childhood times. So from there I learned a lot, and I used the space. So the shop house, the space, the plannings, so and the materials. I saw my father how they carry out the lime wash, and, from there I have my passions because and identity. Every country have its own identity. Then what makes us different from other country is our culture. So if the
Cultural identity.
without culture, we are from multiracial country. So we have a variety of we have a diversity of culture. That is our strength. So from there, as Malaysian, we are proud when we met our
Definitely.
international friends
Yeah.
because that is our unique
Yeah.
characteristic. Yeah.
So that's how you delved into it. It's very interesting because when you say culture and when you say our identity, right, it is
Yeah.
so important because not only things that we do and things that we preserve, tradition, religions, but also buildings do tell culture and identity. And it's very important to record this down because we are a country that is melting. It's a melting pot of religion, race, and there are so many, right?
Yes.
And it is so
Yes.
important for us to understand the uniqueness that we have in Malaysia and to pivot this particular uniqueness and to take it to greatness. So I think one of the important things or one of the things that intrigued me as a designer to understand heritage and conservation was that story that the building had to tell.
Yes.
Every uncharted building or that's not gazetted has a story to tell.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for the fact that, I know in my beginning years of teaching, you sort of, involved me in the fact some of the heritage buildings, you did tell the story and you did expose me to this. And since then, it sort of had a hook to me on stories to tell about heritage building. I also think it's an important aspect of architecture, I will say, and also interior architecture. So now another question that I would like to address is that the question of like, for an example, currently in UOW we have the Bachelor's of Art in Interior Architecture, and we do have a niche program which is Heritage and Conservation program that our students are taking, and you've been our consistently our external assessors as well, giving us 2 cents on this, and we're very, very much appreciative of this. Now, students who have graduated from this program, what can they look forward to if they were to go into the realm of, if they want to be a conservator? The 2 parts to this question. One is, what are the steps that they could take after they graduate in order to get into in depth into the conservation and also heritage or conservation industry? And another thing is, what is the benefits of this? Seeing that I think more and more people need to know the benefits of heritage and conservation, especially youngsters, because that connection of storytelling and that connection of what happened in the past, if we lose it now, there isn't any to carry forward to the next generation. So maybe you can enlighten us with this.
For example, the first question about the students. So after graduates, after they take these programs, that means that they have the fundamentals or have the basic knowledge or they know about principle in heritage conservation. After they graduated, they can join consultant firms, like for example architect firms or interior design firms, because in Penang we have more than thousands heritage buildings, and it has, for example, interior designer. If they have this background, that will be an advantage for them when they start their career. So at least they know what are the do and don'ts. And this is very important. And what material can be used, what material cannot be used, which will cause more damage. So that will be one of the strengths for the student if they take the programs or they understand the heritage conservation, understand heritage building material, technology. So then after they join, take about 3 to 5 years experience. If they have passions in heritage conservation, they can means that they get a mentor. But after graduate, actually they can select some firms or some companies that they have a registered conservator or experienced architect in this conservation line. Then they can learn under this mentor. That after 3 to 5 years, then they can further means that next step go for further study, means that master or PhD. After further study, you can, with your experience in heritage conservation, you can apply as a registered conservator. So because now in Malaysia we still new for this career, so we hope that we have a new youngster, more is a young generation to join us
young
in
blood for this particular industry
new
as well.
blood.
Yes, you new blood. How many conservators would you say is in Malaysia or maybe in Penang? Do you know the numbers of the conservator in around part?
Currently for home Malaysia is about 42.
Wow, that's 42.
Yeah. Have not only Georgetown and Malacca, this is the UNESCO Heritage Site,
Yeah.
but in Malaysia we still have a lot of old towns like Papan, Ipoh, Kuala Lumpur have a lot as well. Then how about Sarawak? So every state actually, some of the state they have their, for example Sarawak, they have an ordinance to control the heritage. Then in Penang, not only the Georgetown Heritage Site, but for the Penang State, we have a Heritage Elements 2011 to control as well. So, and some old district or some district, they have their own rancangan tempatan. Then they have their own guideline. So in Malaysia, we have a lot old towns. Then means that we have a lot opportunity. Then we need a professional like conservator, interior designer, architect that have the knowledge or background in heritage conservation to carry out the adaptive reuse project or conservation project for all these old towns.
So you would say adaptive reuse is also part of conservation, right? Heritage and conservation.
Especially for category 2.
Okay, so if you all don't know, under conservation, heritage and conservation, there's 3 categories, right? Category 1, category 2.
2 depends on
2, 1 and 2.
Yes, for Penang.
Yes, for Penang alone, there's 2. Maybe
that?
you can enlighten us a little bit on the category 1 and category 2 so that our viewers have a better understanding of this.
Okay, the system like this, the current system we have in Georgetown Heritage Site is under SAP, Special Area Plan 2016. There is category 1, category 2. Category 1 major is basically is other the religious building, administrative building, means that you cannot change the layout, you cannot change the functions. Then you need to conserve the appearance, the facade, everything. Then category 2 mostly majority are the shop houses. In Penang, in Georgetown case, shop houses. Then you need to conserve the front facade and the roofscape and vista. So that is but category 2 you can adaptive reuse, means that change the use of the building. Then for Penang, outside the World Heritage Site, actually under elements is have 2 status. One is the state heritage, then heritage. So these 2 is have the own criteria, especially for state heritage must related have a significance to the state history. Then in Malaysia, under the National Heritage Act 2005, there we have the national heritage and heritage. So another 2 status. National heritage, you need to have the site, the heritage, the site have the significance related to the formations of Malaysia, means the history of Malaysia.
Oh, okay. So now that we understand a little bit of category 1 and category 2. So for the students who have graduated from the program, of course, this is something that is I considered a plus point for them when they go out to get a job, because it's very vital that they understand that we are in Penang. If you were to get a job in Penang, most of the buildings are heritage buildings, and there are also a lot of buildings. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are also a lot of buildings that are not gazetted as part of heritage, and as people or as owners of the building, we can gazette these buildings, right? How simple is it to do this?
Okay, for example, in Penang, we have under the elements the state heritage elements 2011. Actually, anybody can nominate. Means that you can download the form from the website. Then you can nominate. Then we have the expert committee to do evaluations, then propose to the state, the council, heritage council for approval. So that means that if a site or buildings have the significance but not yet listed in the list or in the gazettements, you are not supposed to cause any damage to that building. As the students, after you take the course, after you have the bit, they have the knowledge and all this, you should respect and you should know you can identify, know how to identify the significance.
Yes, I think that is the most important part, to identify
Yes.
the significance, because through identification is when you really understand
Yeah.
what are the elements, or what are the action points
Yes.
to take in order to sort of emerge or immerse the conceptual idea of what the client
Yes.
wants to what is existing currently in the building, and also to
Yeah.
respect the air wells, and to respect the cross ventilations, and to
Yeah.
respect the types of wood and staircases, and to respect a lot of elements, in particularly in heritage building, that we have
Yeah.
to condone to, and we have a lot of acts to save it. But I think there are less people, or I wouldn't say less people, let me rephrase it. I think there are a lot out there that are not aware of the fact that, you know, this building might be heritage, because they don't know the significant elements of this building, and as such they just, you know, randomly.
So now we encourage the public that if not sure whether these buildings have heritage or significant, or any architectural significance or historical significance or not, they can check with the local government. That means that local authority. MBSP and MBVP, they already have the departments to take care of this. So if you cause damage to a heritage building or site, you may be charged under the act.
Okay, so there is rules and regulations that we need to follow, and we also
Awareness,
need to, awareness.
we need to-
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, once people are aware of the fact that, you know, heritage and conservation is something important that we need to wrap our heads around. I think slowly the awareness will change into action. So that's more important, because when we created the program here in UOW, as current program is in the niche of heritage, accredited by Lembaga Architect Malaysia, we also want to emphasize the fact that it is important that students not only know the normal commercial design and residential design, how to do it, what are the do's and don'ts, and the requirements. They also need to know the basic understanding and the basic elements of heritage, because once they go out of this program, or once they graduate from this program, they are able to identify these elements in their design, because we know, we understand that in Penang there is a lot of culture and heritage that is not gazetted, and there are a lot of culture and heritage. Sometimes I look at the building and I see, I thought this was a heritage building, what happened? And it looks so modernized. So the story is not there, and when the story is not there, the historical timeline is missing, right? So I think that is one of the important parts that we don't want to miss. And in overseas countries, if you look at it, they really look into heritage conservation. They have a lot of acts, and they implement, and they also fund. They do a lot of funding when it comes to conserving these particular buildings and getting them known. So this is something that I believe is one of those important things we should say. So now, going back to the next question is, as a conservator in Malaysia, what are your goals? This is more personal, right? This is more personal. What are your goals? You know, what would you want to achieve, in the sense that I know you are connected with us for a quite long time, especially during the development of the program, and also being our external assessors. You know, you have assessed our students as well several times. So even within the assessment that you have done, what are the things that you sort of see that it's a good note? That it's a good point to carry along, and what are your goals? Do they see in all of this? Do they sort of join together, amalgamate?
That's a good question. I can see the improvements. Improvement difference compared to the, and in university or university college, that is very important for interior architecture or architecture students to understand heritage buildings. Especially that should be the foundation. So the first difference I see the student here is that they can differentiate. For example, the architecture significance, that architecture typology, they can identify this is what style, this is what style. So if, for example, this is Southern Chinese Heretic style, so what is the characteristic of Southern Chinese Heretic? So they can figure out the character of that particular architecture style. So that is a difference. That is difference. Why? Because they can identify. Once they can identify, they're able to identify the architecture style, means that they understand the technology, they understand the building material, they understand the design. So they can figure out which one is new, which one is no, and when they introduce the new design elements, they can use their creativity, innovations, but at the same time they respect the building, the heritage building. So that is the difference. Then for my goal
Yes,
as a
yeah.
conservator, so now as you know that I joined e-commerce Malaysia and
Yes,
e-commerce, and now as the vice president for the e-commerce SIF. SIF means that is actually e-commerce SIF is the scientific committee under e-commerce for education and training. So I joined this because I hope that our future generations, they learn some things and they have a passion, and at least they have the basic knowledge in heritage conservation as history of architecture. Like you understand, once you understand, only you know how to figure out where is the problems, and only can start design, because I would say that design is to solve the problems, not to create new problems.
Correct. Totally agree with it. So I know that you're spreading a lot of awareness as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're spreading a lot of awareness. So in the next coming years, what can we see from you? What can
Yeah.
we see coming from you, or what is it that you want to? Is there anything special that you would like to announce or say, so that you can get?
Yeah. In the coming years, actually, start from this year. Actually, I can see that I'm involved in a lot, and is organizing the workshop, the trainings for contractor, for public, for the government officer. So I hope that in the coming years we have more collaborations with more agency, more university or university college, and we can create difference in our society awareness. So that I think, and at the same time I also encourage that the role player or the researcher in heritage conservation can continue the research and publish the outcome. And this will be because, and also the practitioner or consultant in heritage conservations, this field, carry out proper documentations, then share with the public. So this will be carried out as a reference, and also is very good in educations for the young generation can use it as a reference, then they will learn from that. Because in what I can see here, we actually we are started I think in 2015 when the Jabatan Warisan Negara National Heritage Department, they started the system that the registration for the conservator. So one of the key role or obligation for conservator is documentation. So documentation, because he knows that one day we all will be
Yes.
we are no longer here. Yeah, we will leave.
Yes,
So
we will leave.
after we leave, no wonder you are how great architect, how great interior designer, how great conservator. But what you left for the future generation, how they learn from you.
How do they know the stories? Yes.
Yeah, so you need to put in the report, document.
So documentations and reports are also very important, right?
Yeah.
So now, just to get the public to be aware, how does anyone know if that individual is a conservator? Like for an interior designer, if you're a registered interior designer, you'll have IDR, and an architect you have AR. For engineer you have IR. So for technologists like me, you have TS.
Yeah.
So how does a person know? Because
So how to check? I mean, how to identify that somebody is a registered conservator or not? Actually, National Heritage Department, their website, they actually can download the list there. All the details, the contact is on the list. So because as a conservator, every year, end of the year, we need to submit the annual report to National Heritage Department. Then they will check through it. So it will be good that you check online to get the latest list to know that who is still registered. Yeah.
Okay, so then this is very useful for general public because I was also wondering how do you know exactly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is something unique because when you come to the field of interior design, you have IDR. You come to the field of architect, you have AR. But conservators don't have anything. They just have
we
their
don't have
name
the
and
title.
then conservator, just the title, right?
Yeah.
They don't have an initial in front of it
No.
or anything whatsoever. I think that's something that they need to think about. I think in the future.
Because now is that you see the architect, they have architect act, they have you need to have an act to control. Means that to have a system to control. Same for registered conservator, we are controlled by we are under the National Heritage Act. So means that if you have any wrongdoings, then you'll be charged under that.
National Heritage Act. Okay, awesome. So for the students who have, let's say for an example, have completed their diploma in interior design, coming into our homegrown bachelor's degree in interior architecture, a niche program under Heritage, what do you think the benefits would be? Like, will there be any issues, or will there be any construct in the fact that they are from diploma there's no background in Heritage, and then they're thrown into something with Heritage? Do you think that this will be something that they may not cope with, or?
You mean that from transition from when diploma to degree?
Yeah, degree with no Heritage background. Because most of programs that are offered out there in diploma does not have any, they do not introduce Heritage at all. They do introduce UBBL, but not Heritage. So now for those students who are thrown into such program with Heritage in niche, what do you think? Of course, benefits you have said it, but what do you think? Do you think there will be an issue with this?
I should have no issue for me. First, you have the extra knowledge on heritage conservation. Then, after your degree, later stage, after your degree, your master, you can go choose the master in heritage conservation. Because one of the criteria you want to apply for as a registered conservator, you need to have the master and PhD in heritage conservation. Then after that, you collect your experience. Means that you have your experience, then you can apply for that. So I see that would be one of the advantage. And if in future, the students choose to focus on, not going into heritage conservator, as an interior designer, as an architect, they also need the knowledge. That would be advantage for them.
Very beneficial for them. Yes, I think one of those things that I keep on revisiting my mind right now is the fact that there's only 42 conservators in Penang, and I'm like, that is a very small number, to start with. That this shows that it is important. It is.
That's the basic. The basic. For example, the heritage conservation program, the course of programs. Same as the history of architecture. You need to know the history. You need to know the revolutions, and then you only learn from the past. Then only you can benefit in the future.
Yes,
so that's very important.
So learn from the past, and then what you learn, you implement it in the future. Not forgetting what has happened in the past, so that it doesn't repeat. So that we say, I think in history we always say, so that history doesn't repeat itself somewhere or rather. This does happen. But
some, like for example, some building technology from the past, then that buildings they can sustain until now. So then you need to study why it can sustain more than 100 years. Then how about RC buildings nowadays? Can it sustain more than 100 years? Yeah. So you must have the reason behind, and then we need to learn from that technology.
Yes. Even, we think of technology as we think, okay, if it's technology, it is something to do with machinery and stuff like that. People naturally think of it that way. But then when it comes to architecture, technology is in the fact that the building can, the pagoda in Japan can still stand without nails. It is still standing, and it withstands any earthquake as well. And the way they have structured it, that is the story that is told through history. And I think
for example, vernacular architecture, we have our very great, means that is we have a Malay house. All the joints that is unique compared to there's our identities, our culture, our own architecture. So why we focus on the other country or foreign or Western architecture, but we should learn from our local vernacular architecture first.
Yes, I think the craftsmanship, I think that's
Yeah,
the
because it's related to the site. Yeah, related to the site, reflect the response of our respond to the local weather, the site context. So
Yes.
we need to understand that.
And the different people that are situated at that particular site,
Yeah.
and then why they have chosen this.
Local
So
material
yes,
as
the
well.
local materials
Yeah.
and so on. So there is a story. Thank you very much for
Thank you very
today's
much.
session. And is there, if you were to recommend maybe 2 or 3 recommendation for our students or even for our
Yeah.
viewers, for them to keep in touch with the understanding of heritage. Well, it could be a website, it could be a newspaper or a magazine.
Yeah.
What would it be? You would like to anything that you would like to recommend in that aspect?
Yeah, I'm from e-commerce Malaysia.
Yes,
So
sure.
e-commerce is one of the NGO that is look into the heritage conservation in Malaysia. Not only tangible but also intangible as well. So you need to, as a student, I encourage the student, you can I believe that now the social media is very common. You can from the Facebook, from the website, like for example, e-commerce, the Badan Warisans, and others like the local universities. Some they publish the quite good, is quite established journal.
Yep.
You can learn from there because you learn from there. You know what happens, and also need to learn from newspaper as well.
What's current
issue, what current issue,
current
and why
issue.
this happened.
Yes, it's always important to keep. So those
Yeah.
are the recommendations from
Yeah,
your
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yes, from my side, the recommendation is, of course, stay in tune with our podcast for the latest information and also whatever that we have to offer in the realm of teaching and learning as well. And one of the other recommendations that I would have is when we have, especially in Penang, when we have a Georgetown Heritage Day or Malaysia Day, take that opportunity, go out, venture out,
Yes.
take part in the activities, take part in the workshops, be part of this particular community that is trying to give awareness, because there is a hidden agenda behind it. The agenda is to create awareness of heritage and then slowly, ignite all and spark this understanding of heritage. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very
Dr.
much for
Tan.
the invitation.
And I
Yeah.
hope to see you soon in
Yeah.
our upcoming, I don't know, 100th.
Thank you very much.
That was perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Okay.